Bitcoin is actually not volatile. Now, the price of Bitcoin moves around, but when people say Bitcoin is volatile, what they don't think about is that there's actually two pieces to that equation. The volatility of the thing itself, and then the volatility assigned to that thing. So when people say that someone, for example, a person is volatile, what they mean is the actions of that person change. Their mood changes. They're angry. They're happy. They're upset. They get in fights. A volatile person is hard to be around because that person, their moods or their emotions are constantly changing. Bitcoin is the opposite. Bitcoin is actually one of the least volatile things in the entire world. So what do I mean by that? Well, since the Bitcoin network was launched in 2009, the Bitcoin network has been humming away, processing transactions, mining, a new block of transactions are cemented permanently onto the Bitcoin blockchain about every 10 minutes. And it's been doing that for 16 and a half years. 16.5 years. The Bitcoin network has been humming along beautifully, mining a block about every 10 minutes, setting that set of transactions in stone, and no variance. Like, it is one of the most stable things in the entire world. So has the Bitcoin network ever failed to process transactions? No. Has a transaction on the Bitcoin network ever been blocked by anyone? No. So even email now and then, a couple times a year I'll lose an email. Like, an email that was supposed to come through just doesn't. And it's not in my spam folder, it's not in my folders, it's not, it's nowhere. And the person resends the email or forwards it to me, and there it is. But somehow my email didn't get to them, or their email didn't get to me. And again, it only happens a couple times a year, and I send a ton of email. But Bitcoin's not like that. The Bitcoin network never fails to process a transaction. The Bitcoin network will always process transactions. No one will ever be able to stop the Bitcoin network. And it has been humming along since 2009. So why do people say it's volatile? Well, the answer is people say it's volatile because they're describing the price of a Bitcoin. The price does not change the underlying technology. It doesn't change the protocol. It does not change how Bitcoin processes transactions. The price just reflects the human opinion based on supply and demand of what the value of a Bitcoin is at that exact point in time. And that is based entirely on the laws of supply and demand, which is true for every stock, every bond, every commodity. What is the value of a bushel of corn? It entirely depends on what somebody is willing to pay for a bushel of corn right now. But we don't say corn. The actual corn kernels may not be volatile unless there's like weather or a drought or something like that. But that doesn't mean the price doesn't go up and down quite a bit based on the laws of supply and demand and how much desire and demand there is for corn or wheat or a share of Amazon or Apple stock, for example. So what makes Bitcoin volatile is people are using it, and it's very early in the adoption cycle. So Bitcoin has been adopted by less than 5% of the world. So there's a very small percentage of the world that is using Bitcoin, and they are very early in their adoption of Bitcoin. So very few people in the world are living on a 100% Bitcoin standard like I am, where all of their paycheck goes into Bitcoin, they pay all of their expenses with Bitcoin, and they live on Bitcoin. The vast majority of people who own any Bitcoin, of the 5% that own any, own like $50 or $200 or some relatively small amount of money. So Bitcoin's volatile because it's early. The world just gave birth to Bitcoin 16 years ago. It's early in its adoption and its infancy, and the price goes up and down because adoption is so early. And if the price was not volatile, then it would not be volatile to the upside either. And since everybody watching this video wants Bitcoin to be worth more than $1 million one day, you can't get upside volatility without downside volatility as well. The two of them always go together. There's no such thing as an asset that has a lot of upside potential and no downside volatility. Those two things always go together. So I am thankful for Bitcoin's volatility because it means there's a huge amount of price upside potentially in the future, which would not be the case if Bitcoin was not volatile at all. Assets that are not volatile do not have high upside. Those two things just never go together. So when you think about Bitcoin, you got to separate what is the volatility of the underlying technology, which is none. Bitcoin is one of the most solid, steady things that exists literally on the entire planet, and the price volatility, which is reflected by the actions of humans. So the reason Bitcoin's price is volatile is because people are volatile. People have emotions and they have tempers and they have moods, and people are constantly making decisions every single day about how much Bitcoin they want to hold, or how much they want to buy, or how much they want to sell, or how much they want their company to buy or hold or sell. And the actions of hundreds of millions of people every day dictate the price of Bitcoin at exactly this moment in time. So that is what's volatile. What is volatile is the humans, not the technology. And over time, that volatility, good afternoon, over time that volatility comes way down. And it comes way down because as adoption goes up, the price goes up, and with that, the volatility goes down. Now, the economic upside in the future also goes down as the volatility goes down. So let's say 25 years from now, everybody in the world uses Bitcoin for everything. It would not be volatile at all. It would be less volatile even than the US dollar. The price or the value of a Bitcoin would go up about 3% per year. Now, why 3%? Why would the value keep going up even after everyone has adopted it worldwide? And the answer for that is human productivity growth. Humans get about 3% better at making stuff every year. So about every year, there's about 3% more products and services that exist in the world. And with only 21 million Bitcoin, the amount of products and services, groceries, games of golf, whatever it is you do or spend money on, the amount of that can be purchased with a specific amount of Bitcoin will eventually just go up 3% per year, because humans get 3% better at making things, and so the money will buy 3% more, which is the opposite of the way the US dollar works. The US dollar tends to lose at least 3% of its value every year, usually significantly more, because they're constantly making more of it out of thin air and basically giving it to themselves and hoping you don't notice or hoping you don't mind. So Bitcoin doesn't work that way. So, but in the day when Bitcoin has no volatility, I promise you people would be complaining that, maybe it's $1 million a coin. The highest estimation anybody's giving for the price of Bitcoin is Michael Saylor, who claims in 21 years, every Bitcoin will be worth $42 million per coin. That seems high. I don't know. Maybe it's 1 million, maybe it's 10 million. Nobody knows. But regardless, once it is fully adopted, it won't be volatile anymore. But that also means the upside will not be there anymore. So all the people that are complaining about volatility want the upside, but they don't want the volatility. But as soon as the volatility goes away, so does the upside. So now it happens slowly over time. Bitcoin is way less volatile than it was a few years ago, but that also means the upside of Bitcoin today is less than it was a few years ago. Back when I was buying Bitcoin in the early days, it would regularly go 20 or 30% up or down in a day. Now it goes, up or down, 30% over the course of a couple months, and everybody freaks out. That used to be a daily occurrence back in the early days of Bitcoin, and I wasn't even in that early. I started buying Bitcoin in late 2017 and early 2018. But even back then, it could swing easy 10% in a day and 20 or 30% over a relatively short time frame. And so Bitcoin is much, much, much less volatile now than it used to be. But again, the trade-off is there's not quite the same amount of upside today in Bitcoin that there was back then. But that trade-off is, again, you don't have to deal with the gut-wrenching volatility it had back then either. So Bitcoin itself is not volatile. Only the price is volatile, and the price is volatile because it represents the moods, the actions, the desires and wants and demands of actual humans. And so humans make the price of Bitcoin volatile, but that does not mean the underlying technology is volatile. It doesn't mean anything about Bitcoin itself is volatile. It just means the price goes up and down because humans are making it go up and down. That will come down over time. So will the upside, the economic upside, and eventually Bitcoin will be adopted as the money reserve currency of the world and the day-to-day money of the world as well. And then everyone will complain that there's not enough upside. But of course, there won't be any volatility because it will just be money. But then at least it goes up 3% a year instead of losing 4% to 9% per year like the US dollar. So in the end, we all win. In the end, the world is a much better place. In the end, nobody makes money out of thin air. And between now and then, Bitcoin is both a great investment and a great money. Eventually, it will just be a great money. But that'll take probably 25 years. I mean, that's like a multi-decade thing. We are still very early in the adoption of Bitcoin, and it takes humans a long time to adopt things because humans just don't change their behavior patterns easily. And 95% of the world doesn't own any Bitcoin. and it will take a long time for those people to come around. And so, but the longer you wait, the more of the potential future economic upside is behind us instead of in front of us, which is why I continue to think Bitcoin is the best investment you could possibly hold, which is why it represents 100% of my liquid assets. Have a great day, everyone.